Picture a place where time stands still, where crumbling walls whisper secrets of the past, and the air hums with the weight of unanswered questions. Somewhere in the shadows of an ancient ruin, a mystery lingers, untouched, unsolved, waiting for someone bold enough to uncover the truth. These abandoned places aren't just relics of history, they're frozen moments, each hiding stories so strange, so chilling, they defy explanation. And today, we're stepping into 25 of the most haunting ruins on Earth, places where the line between history and legend blurs into something far more unsettling. Think about the last time you walked through an old building, your footsteps echoing in empty halls. Now imagine that same feeling, but magnified, a gut-deep sense that you're not alone, that something unseen lingers just beyond your sight. From forgotten temples swallowed by jungles to ghostly asylums where screams still seem to cling to the walls, these ruins hold more than dust and decay. They hold enigmas that have baffled historians, terrified locals, and even driven explorers away with an unshakable dread. What happened here? Why was this place abandoned? And why do so many who visit leave with stories they can't explain? This isn't just a tour of abandoned places, it's a journey into the unknown. Each ruin we explore has its own eerie tale, from vanished civilizations to curses that seem to cling to the stones. Some are tied to gruesome events, others to phenomena that science can't unravel. But one thing connects them all, the whispers of something beyond our understanding. So if you're ready to step into the shadows, to walk where few dare to tread, then let's begin. Because the truth, it's waiting buried in the silence of these 25 haunting ruins. Hidden deep within Jordan's desert, the rose-red city of Petra emerges from the cliffs like a mirage, its towering facades carved directly into the rock, silent and imposing. This was once a thriving hub of trade and culture, home to the Nabateans, a people whose mastery of water engineering turned this arid landscape into a flourishing oasis. But by the 8th century, Petra was empty, abandoned without a clear explanation. What forced an entire civilization to vanish, leaving behind only these breathtaking ruins? Some point to earthquakes that shattered their intricate water systems, while others whisper of a slower, more sinister decline, trade routes shifting, wealth drying up, and a people fading into obscurity. But walk through the narrow canyon that leads to Petra's heart, and you'll feel it, the uncanny sense that this place still guards its secrets. The tombs, their doorways black and gaping, seem less like monuments to the dead and more like portals to something unresolved. And then there's the most chilling detail of all. Petra's later inhabitants, the Bedouins, have long refused to enter certain areas after dark, claiming the ruins are alive with voices no one can see. Across the ocean, buried in the jungles of Mexico, the Temple of the Inscriptions stands as another enigma. This pyramid is the final resting place of King Pakal the Great, the Mayan ruler whose elaborate sarcophagus lid has sparked debate for decades. When archaeologists first uncovered it in the 1950s, they were stunned. The intricate carvings show Pakal in what some believe is a spaceship, his hands on controls, his body poised as if mid-journey. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as a symbolic depiction of the king's descent into the underworld, but the precision of the imagery, the flames, the machinery-like elements, has fueled theories of ancient astronauts and lost technology. Even stranger, the tomb itself seems to defy time. The sarcophagus lid weighs several tons, yet it was placed in a chamber with no entrance large enough to carry it in. The Maya sealed it inside during construction, as if they knew exactly where Pakal would rest centuries later. But why go to such lengths, and what were they trying to protect or hide? The glyphs lining the temple walls hold clues, but many remain untranslated, their messages locked away, waiting for someone to finally decipher the truth. High in the rugged hills of India's Rajasthan, the ruins of Bhangarh Fort loom over the landscape like a warning. Its broken walls and crumbling palaces are steeped in a legend so potent, the Indian government has banned visitors after sunset. The story begins with a curse one cast by a scorned sorcerer named Singhia. According to folklore, he fell desperately in love with the fort's princess, Ratnavati, and tried to enchant her with a magical potion. When she discovered his plan, she threw the potion onto a boulder, which rolled downhill and crushed him. With his dying breath, Singhia cursed the entire kingdom, declaring that no one would ever live there again. Within a year, Bhangarh was wiped out in a brutal invasion, its streets left empty. But the strangest part, locals insist the curse never lifted. Those who have ignored the warnings and stayed past dark report disembodied laughter, shadows that move against the wind, and an overwhelming sense of being pushed by unseen hands. Even more chilling, photographs taken at the fort often capture strange, human-like figures in the background, figures that weren't there when the picture was taken. Across continents, the Tower of London stands as a monument to bloodshed and betrayal. Built nearly 1,000 years ago, its stones have witnessed executions, torture, and whispered plots that shaped England's history. But some say the tower's past never truly left. The most famous ghost is Anne Boleyn, the beheaded queen who's been spotted wandering the grounds, her head tucked beneath her arm. Visitors and guards alike have reported sudden drops in temperature, the sound of dragging footsteps in empty corridors, and even the fleeting glimpse of two young boys, believed to be the murdered princes in the tower, holding hands near the spot where their bones were found. Yet the tower's deepest mystery isn't just its ghosts, it's the disappearances. In 1483, the Duke of Clarence vanished from his cell without a trace, despite the door being locked from the outside. Centuries later, during World War II, a guard swore he saw a spectral bear charge at him near the Martin Tower, only to collapse into nothingness. With so many unresolved stories, the Tower of London isn't just a historic site. It's a puzzle where the pieces refuse to stay in the past. Rising from the savannah in southern Africa, the stone walls of Great Zimbabwe curve and climb like a labyrinth lost to time. This sprawling complex, built between the 11th and 15th centuries, was once the heart of a powerful kingdom, a center of trade, politics, and culture that stretched across the continent. Yet by the time European explorers stumbled upon it in the 19th century, the city was empty. Its people vanished without a trace. For decades, colonial scholars refused to believe Africans could have built something so monumental, attributing it to Phoenicians or even the Queen of Sheba. But the truth is far more fascinating. The intricate dry stone masonry, some walls over 30 feet tall, reveals a sophisticated understanding of architecture and engineering. Artifacts found here, Chinese porcelain, Arab coins, and Persian glass, hint at a vast trade network. So why did this thriving civilization abandon their capital? Drought, political upheaval, or something more mysterious? Local legends speak of a spiritual rift, a curse that drove the people away. Even today, some visitors report an eerie stillness in the air, as if the stones themselves are waiting for an answer. Beneath the waves off Japan's Yonaguni Island, a different kind of mystery lurks. The Yonaguni Monument, discovered in the 1980s, is a massive underwater formation with sharp angles, perfect steps, and what appear to be carved terraces. Some researchers argue it's a natural geological oddity shaped by tidal forces over millennia, but others point to the uncanny symmetry, the way the structure resembles ancient ziggurats or ceremonial platforms. If man-made, it would rewrite history, suggesting a lost civilization advanced enough to build on this scale over 10,000 years ago, before rising sea levels submerged it. Divers exploring the site have reported strange sensations, as if the monument hums with energy, and some claim to have glimpsed shadowy figures moving through the waterlogged passageways. Whether a quirk of nature or a relic of a forgotten world, one thing is certain: the Yonaguni Monument refuses to give up its secrets easily. Deep in the forests of the Czech Republic, Houska Castle stands as a fortress built not to keep invaders out, but to keep something in. Constructed in the 13th century, this Gothic fortress has no strategic value, no nearby settlements, and oddly, no fortifications facing outward. Instead, its defenses point inward toward a gaping hole in the ground known as the Gateway to Hell. Local legends say the pit is bottomless, a void where demonic creatures once crawled into our world. Villagers claim to hear scratching sounds from below, and when prisoners were lowered into the pit on ropes, they returned screaming, their hair turned white. The castle was built to seal it shut, its chapel placed directly over the hole as if to sanctify the darkness beneath, but the horrors didn't end there. During World War II, the Nazis seized Houska, using it for occult experiments. Soldiers reportedly fired into the pit, only for their bullets to ricochet back at impossible angles. Some who entered the lower chambers vanished without explanation, their names scratched from records. To this day, visitors report phantom whispers, sudden temperature drops, and an overwhelming dread near the chapel floor, as if whatever lies beneath is still waiting. Half a world away, the Sanjai Pod village in Taiwan offers a haunting contrast, a cluster of brightly colored, futuristic domes left to decay by the sea. Built in the 1980s as a luxury resort, the village was abandoned before it ever opened. The official story cites financial troubles, but locals tell a darker tale. Workers died in a series of bizarre accidents during construction, falls from scaffolding, equipment malfunctions, even unexplained drownings in calm waters. Some blamed restless spirits disturbed by the building's intrusion on sacred land. Others whispered of a curse tied to a nearby shipwreck where bodies had washed ashore decades earlier. The more people tried to finish the project, the more misfortune struck until developers finally walked away. Now, the pastel-colored pods stand as a ghostly monument to bad luck, their windows shattered, vines creeping through the cracks. Urban explorers who have ventured inside tell of cameras malfunctioning, voices echoing in empty halls, and an eerie sense of being watched. Unlike Houska's ancient terror, Sanjai's mystery feels chillingly modern, a reminder that some places refuse to be tamed, no matter how advanced the blueprint. Both ruins share an uncanny thread. They were abandoned not by chance, but because something whether supernatural or inexplicable drove people away. Houska's medieval builders and Sanjai's modern architects faced forces they couldn't control, leaving behind structures that defy logic. One is a fortress against the unknown, the other a utopia that never was. And in their silence, they ask the same unsettling question. What happens when humanity builds something only to discover it was never meant to be? Standing sentinel on the windswept shores of Easter Island, the Moai statues stare inland with hollow eyes, their massive stone faces frozen in silent vigilance. These towering figures, some weighing over 80 tons, were carved and transported across miles of rugged terrain by the Rapa Nui people, a feat that defies modern understanding. But the true mystery isn't just how they were moved, it's why the society that built them vanished so abruptly. For centuries, the island thrived, its people erecting nearly 900 of these monolithic guardians. Then, seemingly overnight, civilization collapsed. Theories range from ecological disaster, deforestation, and soil depletion, to tribal warfare, even cannibalism. But recent discoveries hint at something stranger. Some Moai stand atop platforms lined with undeciphered petroglyphs, while others lie broken along ancient roads as if toppled in haste. Were they trying to warn future generations? Local legends speak of the walking statues, claiming the ancestors themselves moved the Moai into place using spiritual energy called mana. Modern experiments have shown how the statues could indeed walk when rocked side to side, but that doesn't explain why the Rapa Nui abandoned their work mid-stride. Even eerier, many statues face not the ocean but inward, gazing toward the island's heart, as if watching for an unseen threat. beneath the bustling streets of Paris, a different kind of silence stretches for miles. The catacombs, a labyrinth of tunnels lined with the bones of over 6 million souls, hold horrors far older than the French Revolution's mass burials. Officially, these ossuaries were a solution to overflowing cemeteries, but dig deeper literally, and the whispers begin. Explorers have vanished in these tunnels, their maps useless as corridors shift or dead end without warning. In 1793, Philibert Aspert wandered in searching for lost liquor. His body wasn't found for 11 years. Others who have strayed from the tourist paths report phantom hands brushing their necks, distant chanting in medieval French, and walls that seem to pulse with warmth despite the chill. The most infamous section, La Plage, is a chamber where bones form a macabre mosaic, but few dare to linger. Visitors often capture unexplainable shadows in their photos, and guards tell of hearing children's laughter in sections sealed off since the 1700s. Some tunnels descend deeper than records show, leading to rumors of Nazi experiments, secret cults, or even gateways to older, darker places. The catacombs hold more than bones. They cradle the weight of centuries, and not all who enter are meant to leave. Both sites share a haunting duality. One stands under open skies, the other buried in eternal night. The moai guard a civilization's unanswered questions, while the catacombs swallow them whole. One asks what happens when a people lose their way. The other asks what lingers when the world above forgets. And in their silence they remind us, some ruins aren't just abandoned, they're waiting. In the murky waters of Italy's Venetian lagoon, Poveglia Island floats like a cursed relic, its crumbling buildings barely visible through the mist. This tiny patch of land holds one of history's darkest reputations, a place where the living were feared more than the dead. During the Black Death, victims were dragged here to die in isolation. Their bodies burned in mass graves so vast that locals claim the soil is still 50% human ash. But the horror didn't end with the plague. In the 1920s, the island became an asylum for the mentally ill, where whispers of brutal experiments and a doctor who leapt from the bell tower still linger. Patients spoke of ghostly figures in plague masks wandering the halls, and staff reported hearing sobs from empty rooms. The asylum closed abruptly, its records vanishing, leaving only rumors of what truly happened. Today, Poveglia is forbidden to visitors, but fishermen avoid its shores, swearing they hear screams carried on the wind. Even the Italian government, which once auctioned the island, revoked the sale after the buyer backed out, claiming he'd felt an unseen hand shoving him toward the water. Across the Atlantic, in the heart of California, the Winchester Mystery House stands as a monument to one woman's terror of the supernatural. Sarah Winchester, heir to the rifle fortune, became convinced the spirits of those killed by Winchester firearms were haunting her. A medium allegedly told her to build a home so vast and confusing the ghosts could never find her, so for 38 years construction never stopped. The result, a labyrinth of 160 rooms with staircases leading to ceilings, doors opening to sheer drops, and hallways that spiral into dead ends. Workers labored day and night, adding secret passages, upside-down columns, and even a switchback staircase with steps just 2 inches tall, rumored to be built for child spirits. Visitors report phantom footsteps, chandeliers swaying without wind, and the scent of perfume in rooms Sarah once occupied. But the most chilling detail: blueprints were burned daily, meaning no one alive knows the full layout. Was Sarah truly haunted or lost in grief? The house refuses to say, its corridors echoing with questions even death hasn't answered. Both ruins share a spine-chilling theme. One was a prison for the damned, the other a fortress against them. Poveglia's anguish seeped into its stones, while the Winchester house became a living nightmare, its walls growing like a cocoon around fear itself. One asks what happens when humanity abandons its unwanted. The other, what happens when the unwanted refuse to be abandoned. and in their silence they whisper the same truth: some places aren't just haunted by history. They're haunted by the choices we thought we could bury. In the quiet English countryside, Borley Rectory lurks like a scar on the landscape, a place so notorious for its hauntings it earned the title of England's most haunted house. Built in 1862, this Gothic-style rectory became a hotbed of paranormal activity almost immediately. Residents reported phantom footsteps pacing the halls, unexplained knocking inside walls, and even the apparition of a mournful nun who supposedly roamed the garden, her face shrouded in sorrow. But the horrors escalated when the Price family moved in during the 1920s. Objects flew across rooms untouched, disembodied whispers echoed at night, and daughter Marion claimed to be pushed down the stairs by an invisible force. The most chilling event, a séance held in the house, allegedly made contact with a spirit named Sonix Amures, who vowed to burn the rectory down on a specific date. When fire mysteriously engulfed the building years later, on that exact date, it felt less like coincidence and more like a promise kept. Even in ruins, Borley's terror lingers. Visitors to the site report sudden cold spots, shadow figures darting between crumbling walls, and an overwhelming sense of being watched. The rectory's story isn't just about ghosts, it's about a place that seemed to feed on fear, amplifying its horrors until even its ashes felt alive. Far from England's haunted halls, the jungles of Guatemala hide the sprawling ruins of Tikal, a Mayan city that once thrummed with life. At its peak, Tikal was a powerhouse of culture and science, its towering temples piercing the canopy like stone fingers reaching for the gods. Then, around the 9th century, it was abandoned. Unlike other Mayan sites, there's no evidence of invasion or natural disaster, just empty plazas and silent pyramids, as if the entire population simply walked away. Archaeologists have pieced together clues: dwindling resources, political unrest, maybe even a revolt against the ruling class, but the most compelling theory revolves around drought. Pollen samples suggest the region suffered a catastrophic dry spell, turning fertile land to dust. Yet even that doesn't fully explain why a civilization capable of predicting eclipses and mapping the stars couldn't adapt. Local guides whisper of a darker twist, ancient texts hinting at a great unraveling, a spiritual collapse where the people lost faith in their rulers and their gods. Walking Tikal's overgrown causeways today, you can feel the weight of that silence. Howler monkeys scream in the distance, but the stones themselves seem to hold their breath, guarding secrets buried too deep for time to uncover. Borley and Tikal couldn't be more different, one a stage for spectral theatrics, the other a monument to human ambition swallowed by nature. Yet both share an unsettling truth: they're places where history didn't just end, it fractured. One asks what lingers when the living are gone, the other what happens when even the ghosts refuse to stay. And in their ruins they pose the same unspoken question: when does a place stop being abandoned and start being reclaimed? In the heart of Romania's Carpathian Mountains, the Hoia Basiu forest twists into a nightmare of gnarled trees and unnerving silence. Locals call it the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania, a place where compasses spin wildly, electronic devices fail without warning, and some who enter never return. The forest's centerpiece is a perfect circle of barren earth where nothing grows, a eerie clearing said to be a portal for otherworldly forces. Since the 1960s, visitors have reported phantom voices, sudden nausea, and even burns or scratches appearing on their skin as if clawed by invisible hands. But the most persistent legends revolve around the light, strange orbs that dart between the trees, pulsing with an unearthly glow. UFO researchers flock here, convinced the forest is a hotspot for extraterrestrial activity. One infamous photo from 1968 shows a disc-shaped object hovering above the tree line, its surface shimmering like polished metal. Yet for all the speculation, no one can explain why this patch of wilderness seems to defy the laws of physics, or why so many who venture in emerge with fragmented memories as if something rewrote their minds. Half a world away, beneath the sun-baked plains of Cappadocia, Turkey, the Derinkuyu underground city stretches like a labyrinth carved from nightmare and necessity. This isn't just a few tunnels, it's an entire subterranean metropolis, 18 levels deep, capable of sheltering 20,000 people. Ventilation shafts plunge hundreds of feet, connecting chambers that housed livestock, churches, even wineries, all hidden beneath the earth. The precision is staggering. Rolling stone doors sealed invaders out, while intricate water channels prevented poisoning. But who built this and why? Conventional history credits early Christians fleeing persecution, yet parts of Derinkuyu predate Christianity by millennia. Some walls bear markings older than any known language in the region, and the engineering suggests knowledge lost to later civilizations. Local folklore speaks of ancient beings, the ones who dug, who first hollowed these passages to escape a cataclysm above. Modern explorers tell of disorientation in its depths, of whispers echoing from sealed chambers, and of a pervasive dread in the lowest levels where the air grows thick and cold. Unlike Hoya Basu's chaotic energy, Derinkuyu feels calculated a refuge from something unimaginable. One forest, one city, both riddles wrapped in stone and shadow. Hoya Basu taunts with unanswered questions, its horrors fleeting yet visceral. Derinkuyu swallows curiosity whole, its secrets buried too deep for easy answers. One defies explanation, the other demands it, and between them they ask, are some places meant to stay mysteries, or have we simply stopped listening to their truths? In the heart of Togo's capital, Lomé, the Akadeshua fetish market pulses with an energy unlike anywhere else on Earth. This sprawling marketplace is the world's largest hub for voodoo practitioners, its stalls overflowing with artifacts that blur the line between the sacred and the sinister. Skulls of monkeys, dried chameleons, and jars of unidentifiable powders sit alongside intricate talismans, each item believed to hold supernatural power. The air hums with the scent of herbs and burning incense, while vendors whisper incantations over their wares. But it's the stories tied to these objects that chill the bone. One mask carved with hollow eyes is said to weep blood when its owner is in danger. A bundle of feathers bound with twine allegedly carries the spirit of a vengeful ancestor. And then there's the most feared relic of all, the zombie powder, a concoction rumored to induce a death-like trance, allowing the victim to be controlled like a puppet. Locals swear these aren't just superstitions, they're tools wielded by priests who commune with forces beyond our understanding. Visitors who have mocked the market's power often return with tales of nightmares that follow them home, or unexplained illnesses that vanish only after they've apologized to the spirits. The market isn't just a place of commerce, it's a living relic, a doorway to a world where magic and reality collide. 1,000 miles north, in the frozen silence of Ukraine, the Chernobyl exclusion zone tells a different kind of haunting story. The abandoned city of Pripyat, once a vibrant Soviet utopia, now stands frozen in time, its crumbling apartment blocks, rusted Ferris wheel, and empty schools swallowed by encroaching forest. The nuclear disaster of 1986 didn't just displace thousands. It created a ghost town where radiation lingers like an invisible specter. But the real mystery isn't just the absence of life, it's the strange phenomena that persist. Scientists have documented the Chernobyl effect, where wildlife thrives in the absence of humans, yet mutations whisper of the radiation's unseen toll. Stray dogs, descendants of pets left behind, roam the streets with an uncanny intelligence, almost as if they've adapted to the poison in the air. Explorers report phantom sounds, children's laughter echoing from deserted playgrounds, or piano notes drifting from the ruins of the cultural palace. Some swear they've seen shadows moving in the windows of the hospital basement, where firefighters' uniforms still rot, too toxic to touch. And then there's the Red Forest, where the trees turned a sickly amber and never recovered, their twisted trunks glowing faintly at dusk. Chernobyl isn't just a monument to human error. It's a living experiment, a place where nature and fallout wage a silent war and the past refuses to decay. Both ruins defy easy explanation. Akodesua's power lies in belief, its artifacts pulsing with the energy of centuries-old rituals. Chernobyl's horror is starkly modern, a reminder of technology's fragility. One asks what happens when humanity taps into forces it can't control. The other, what happens when control slips away entirely. And in their silence they share a warning, some boundaries, whether spiritual or scientific, were never meant to be crossed. Rising from the sands of modern-day Iraq, the ruins of Babylon whisper of a time when this city was the jewel of Mesopotamia, a place of unimaginable wealth and power. Its legendary hanging gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, have taunted historians for centuries because no one can agree on where they actually stood. Some argue they were purely mythical, a poetic exaggeration by Greek historians. Others point to crumbling terraces near the Euphrates River, their irrigation systems eerily advanced as potential remnants. But the most haunting theory, that the gardens weren't in Babylon at all, but in the Assyrian city of Nineveh, their location lost to propaganda and time. Beyond the mystery of the gardens, Babylon carries a darker legacy, the curse of its infamous ruler Nebuchadnezzar, when he sacked Jerusalem in 586 B.C. He dragged thousands of Jews into exile, an act some believe summoned divine retribution. Centuries later, when Saddam Hussein attempted to rebuild Babylon's grandeur, his projects were halted by war, and locals swore the ruins themselves resisted. Workers reported tools vanishing, scaffolding collapsing, and an oppressive sense of being watched. Even today, visitors describe an unnatural stillness in the air, as if the city's ghosts are waiting for an apology history never gave. A world away, nestled at the base of Mount Fuji, Japan's Aokigahara forest stretches in suffocating silence. Known as the Sea of Trees, this dense woodland is infamous for its tragic reputation as a site of countless suicides. But locals speak of something older and far more unsettling, a spiritual energy that predates the forest's modern notoriety. Ancient legends tell of Yurei, angry spirits left behind by those who died violently or without proper burial rites. The forest's volcanic soil, rich in iron, distorts compasses, creating an eerie disorientation. Hikers report hearing whispers in the wind, footsteps trailing just out of sight, and an overwhelming pull toward the forest's heart. Researchers have documented strange electromagnetic fluctuations, while psychics claim the trees themselves absorb sorrow like sponges. The most chilling accounts come from those who have ventured deep and returned their stories of shadowy figures beckoning from the undergrowth or cold hands brushing their necks in the dead of day. Official signs plead with visitors to reconsider, but the forest's silence seems to swallow the words whole. Babylon and Aokigahara couldn't be more different, one a monument to human ambition crumbling under the weight of its own hubris, the other a natural labyrinth where despair seems to pool like groundwater. Yet both share an uncanny truth: they're places where the past refuses to stay buried. One asks what happens when a civilization's sins outlive its glory. The other, what happens when the land itself becomes a mirror for the darkest corners of the human soul. And in their silence, they remind us some ruins aren't made of stone, but of the stories we're too afraid to tell. On the windswept shores of what's now North Carolina, the ruins of the Roanoke colony stand as one of America's oldest and most baffling mysteries. In 1587, over 100 English settlers vanished without a trace, leaving behind only 2 cryptic clues: the word Croatoan carved into a post and crow etched into a tree. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just an eerie emptiness where a bustling village should have been. Theories range from the plausible to the chilling. Some historians argue the colonists integrated with the nearby Croatan tribe, pointing to later reports of fair-skinned, English-speaking natives in the area. Others suggest they were wiped out by drought, disease, or Spanish raiders. but the darkest legends whisper of something more sinister, a supernatural force tied to the land itself. Local Algonquian tribes avoided the area long before the colonists arrived, calling it the cursed place. Even today, visitors report phantom campfires flickering along the shore, disembodied voices calling names from the settlers' roster, and an oppressive sense of being watched from the dense surrounding woods. The truth may never be uncovered, but Roanoke's ruins serve as a grim reminder. Some disappearances refuse to stay buried. Across the Atlantic, nestled in the rugged coastline of Newfoundland, the Viking settlement of Aux Meadows tells a different kind of vanishing story. Discovered in the 1960s, these sod-covered ruins prove Norse explorers reached North America centuries before Columbus, yet their stay was shockingly brief. The settlement, built around the year 1000, housed up to 90 Vikings in sturdy longhouses, complete forges for ironworking, and even evidence of boat repairs. But within a decade, they were gone. Unlike Roanoke, there's no mystery carved into wood, just abandoned tools, half-finished projects, and the silent question, why leave? Climate data suggests the region grew colder, making survival difficult. Others speculate tensions with the indigenous Skraeling people, or even orders from Greenland to retreat. But the most intriguing clue lies in the sagas, the Norse epics that mention a place called Vinland, a land so rich its explorers loaded their ships with timber and grapes. Aux Meadows matches the description, yet the Vikings never returned to colonize it. Was it too far, too hostile, or did they, like Roanoke settlers, encounter something that made them flee? Both ruins share a haunting paradox. One vanished without explanation, the other left behind every explanation except the one that mattered. Roanoke's story is a riddle wrapped in fear, its clues leading only to deeper questions. Aux Meadows is a road not taken, a glimpse of what could have been, if only history had played out differently. One leaves us chasing ghosts, the other wondering what ghosts might have followed them home. And in their silence, they ask the same unsettling question. What does it take for an entire community to walk away from everything they've built? Buried under layers of volcanic ash for nearly 2,000 years, the ruins of Pompeii offer one of history's most heartbreaking snapshots, a city frozen in its final moments. When Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD, it didn't just destroy Pompeii, it preserved it. Walking its streets today feels like stepping into a ghostly diorama. The bakery's ovens still hold charred loaves of bread. Frescoes cling to walls, their colors unnervingly vibrant, but it's the plaster casts of the victims that haunt the most. These aren't statues, they're voids filled with liquid plaster, capturing the exact postures of people as they gasp their last breaths. A mother clutches her child. A man shields his face, a dog, still tethered to its post, twists in agony. The detail is so visceral, you can see the folds of their clothing, the terror in their expressions. Scientists have even analyzed the gaps in their teeth from ancient dental work. Yet for all we've learned, Pompeii guards its darkest secrets. Some bodies were found clutching bags of coins, as if they'd been warned but waited too long to flee. Others were discovered in underground chambers, their bones tangled in impossible positions, suggesting they weren't just suffocated, but thrown by pyroclastic surges with unimaginable force. The ruins whisper a warning. Nature's wrath doesn't just erase, it immortalizes. Half a world away, under the blazing Florida sun, the Coral Castle stands as a monument to a different kind of mystery, one carved not by disaster but by obsession. In the early 20th century, a 5-foot-tall Latvian immigrant named Edward Leedskalnin single-handedly built this sprawling complex of massive coral blocks, some weighing over 20 tons. With no formal engineering training and only primitive tools, he quarried, transported, and precisely positioned each stone in secret, often working at night. When asked how he managed it, Leedskalnin would only smirk and say he'd discovered the secrets of the pyramids. The methods he used defy explanation. The castle's centerpiece, a 9-ton gate, was so perfectly balanced a child could push it open, yet engineers couldn't replicate its precision even with modern technology. Tools found on site, like a makeshift tripod made of telephone poles, seem laughably inadequate for the task. Theories range from anti-gravity devices to forgotten acoustics that soften stone, but Leedskalnin took his secrets to the grave. Even eerier, he built it all for a woman, his 16-year-old fiancée, who left him at the altar. Some say the castle was his haunted love letter, its stones humming with unresolved longing. Visitors report compasses spinning wildly near certain walls, and night guards swear the blocks occasionally glow faintly, as if pulsing with whatever energy Leedskalnin harnessed. Pompeii and Coral Castle couldn't be more different, one a tragedy written in ash, the other a riddle carved in stone, yet both are testaments to human fragility. One shows how quickly everything can be taken away, the other how one determined soul can defy the impossible. One asks what remains when time stops abruptly, the other what lingers when it stretches too long. And in their silence they whisper the same unsettling truth: some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, they're meant to remind us how much we'll never know. Etched into the bone-dry plains of southern Peru, the Nazca lines stretch across nearly 200 square miles of desert like a giant sketchbook left open to the sky. These colossal geoglyphs, some over 1,200 feet long, depict spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, and geometric shapes so precise they can only be fully appreciated from the air. Created between 500 BC and 500 AD by the Nazca people, their purpose has fueled debates for centuries. How did an ancient culture with no known means of flight design patterns visible only from above? And why would they pour such effort into art they could never see in its entirety? The simplest theory suggests the lines were sacred pathways, walked during rituals to summon rain in one of Earth's driest regions. Archaeologists point to pottery fragments found along the designs, possibly offerings to deities. Others believe the glyphs mapped constellations or underground water sources, their shapes mirroring the stars or aquifers below. But the most tantalizing and controversial idea ties them to extraterrestrial contact. In the 1960s, Swiss author Erich von Däniken popularized the notion that the Nazca people built the lines as landing strips for alien spacecraft, citing their aerial precision as proof. While mainstream scholars dismiss this, the theory persists, fueled by odd details like the so-called astronaut glyph, a humanoid figure with bulbous eyes seemingly waving from a hillside. Modern technology has only deepened the mystery. Drone surveys reveal previously hidden lines, suggesting the network is far more extensive than realized. Soil samples show the Nazca deliberately removed darker topsoil to expose lighter sediment beneath, creating designs that endure for millennia. Yet the strangest twist emerged in 2018, when researchers using artificial intelligence discovered new glyphs resembling mythical creatures, a two-headed serpent and a bird-headed being, none of which appear in known Nazca art. Were these meant to communicate with beings beyond their world, or do they hint at a forgotten mythology? Local legends add another layer. Oral traditions speak of sky gods, who descended to teach the Nazca agriculture and astronomy, while shamanic rituals involved hallucinogens that supposedly allowed priests to fly spiritually and inspect their work. Could the lines be a bridge between realms, meant to guide these celestial visitors, or warnings to ward them off? Even today, the desert guards its secrets. Wind erases some lines as quickly as they're discovered, as if the earth itself resists revealing the truth. Unlike ruins that crumble, the Nazca lines defy time through their very impermanence, their meaning etched not in stone but in absence. They ask us to consider not just what we build, but why we build things meant to outlast us. Are they messages, maps, or something far stranger? The answer may lie not in the sand, but in the silence between the lines. The Nazca lines aren't just ancient art, they're a celestial puzzle etched into the earth, a code we're still scrambling to crack. Recent discoveries have only deepened the mystery. In 2020, researchers using advanced drones stumbled upon a massive feline glyph, nearly 2,000 years older than the previously known designs, hidden on a hillside. This wasn't just another animal, it was a clue that the Nazca culture had been perfecting their craft for far longer than anyone realized. But why? One theory gaining traction ties the lines to the stars. Archaeologists have found startling alignments between certain glyphs and constellations visible during key agricultural cycles. The famous monkey glyph, for instance, mirrors the Pleiades cluster, which the Nazca associated with the rainy season, a matter of life and death in their parched world. Yet the astronomy angle doesn't explain everything. Take the spiral design, a labyrinthine coil stretching over half a mile. Satellite imagery reveals it's not just a static image, it's a path, one that aligns perfectly with solstice sunrises. Walking its length during these moments casts shadows that mimic serpentine movement, as if the ground itself were alive. This wasn't random, it was ritual. But for what? Some scholars argue the lines were part of a massive pilgrimage where shamans entered trance states using hallucinogenic brews, walking the glyphs to commune with spirits. Others point to eerie acoustic properties. Certain pathways amplify sound abnormally, creating echoes that seem to answer human voices. The most haunting question isn't how they built these marvels, but why we still can't grasp their full purpose. Even modern tech struggles to decode them. In 2022, AI analysis uncovered previously invisible patterns, grids, and geometric shapes buried under centuries of wind-blown dust. These weren't artistic flourishes, they were precise calculations, lines intersecting at angles matching celestial events with pinpoint accuracy. One newly discovered glyph, a towering humanoid with rays emanating from its head, has no parallel in Nazca art. Its stance mirrors rock carvings found in Bolivia, hinting at a lost cultural connection spanning hundreds of miles. Local lore adds another layer. Elders speak of the eye drinkers, mythical beings said to descend from the sky, their thirst quenched by the tears of the living. Could the lines have been warnings, offerings, or were they, as some fringe researchers suggest, a sprawling astronomical calendar, tracking cosmic cycles we've yet to decipher? The desert guards its secrets fiercely. Wind erases newly uncovered glyphs within months, as if the land itself resists revelation. The Nazca lines aren't just artifacts, they're a conversation across millennia, one we're only beginning to hear. And with every discovery, the whispers grow louder, teasing us with answers just beyond reach. Deep within Romania's Hoia Basiu forest, certain patches of twisted trees and barren ground seem to thrum with energy so unnatural, even seasoned paranormal investigators hesitate to linger. One such area, the infamous clearing, defies all logic, a perfect circle where nothing grows, not even moss. Visitors stepping into this dead zone report sudden nausea, their skin prickling as if brushed by static electricity. But it's the time slips that chill the bone. Hikers swear they've entered the clearing at noon, only to emerge hours later. Their watches still stuck at 12 o'clock, the sun unmoved in the sky. One group in 2014 documented their entire hike with timestamps. The footage shows them walking into the clearing, then instantly reappearing at the tree line, missing 43 minutes of recording. Near the forest's eastern edge lies the Whispering Grove, where the air itself seems to twist sound into something unrecognizable. Tour guides warn visitors not to call out names here. Those who do often hear their own voices thrown back at them, but warped as if filtered through decades. A local research team once set up audio equipment in the grove, capturing what sounded like overlapping conversations in a language no linguist could identify. Stranger still, when played backward, the recordings contained clear snippets of modern Romanian phrases like "look behind you" and "it's not safe after dark." Yet the most feared hotspot is the shadow crossing, a narrow path where the trees lean inward like gnarled fingers. Here, the darkness doesn't obey the rules of light. Even at midday, figures dart between the trunks, too tall, too thin to be human. Photographs taken in this area often reveal silhouettes lurking just beyond the frame, their shapes smudged as if the camera couldn't fully capture them. One blogger who camped overnight in 2019 described waking to find his tent surrounded by footprints that circled endlessly, never approaching, never retreating, just a maddening loop pressed into the frost. Locals refused to enter this part of the forest without iron nails sewn into their clothing, an old superstition meant to repel whatever walks there. These aren't just ghost stories. Scientists have measured bizarre electromagnetic spikes in the clearing, while thermal cameras in the grove pick up sudden cold spots shaped like human hands pressing against the air. But perhaps the most unsettling detail comes from the soil itself. Samples taken from the shadow crossing contain traces of an unknown mineral, its atomic structure defying classification. The forest doesn't just whisper its secrets, it warps reality around them, leaving us to question whether these phenomena are echoes of the past or warnings from something far older. During World War II, when the Nazis seized Houska Castle, they weren't just looking for a strategic stronghold, they were hunting for something far darker. Rumors swirled among the occupying officers that the castle's infamous pit wasn't just a geological oddity, but a gateway to another realm. Classified Nazi documents, later uncovered by historians, revealed their obsession with the occult, particularly sites believed to hold earth energies or access to forbidden knowledge. Houska, with its cursed reputation and unnaturally deep shaft, became a laboratory for experiments too horrifying to document fully. Local accounts from the time described trucks arriving under cover of darkness, carrying crates of esoteric texts and strange equipment. Soldiers stationed there reported nightmares so vivid they'd wake screaming, their uniforms soaked in sweat despite the freezing temperatures. The most chilling testimonies come from a handful of survivors who worked as orderlies. One recalled a night in 1942 when high-ranking SS officers gathered in the chapel, performing a ritual over the sealed pit. They chanted in a language none recognized, their voices rising to a crescendo before a sound like tearing fabric filled the air, a noise so unnatural it left the witnesses' ears bleeding. The next morning, 3 soldiers were missing, their names erased from unit logs as if they'd never existed. Another account tells of a prisoner, a Czech resistance fighter, forced at gunpoint to descend into the pit on a rope. When hauled back up minutes later, his hair had turned white, his face aged decades, and his whispers of endless staircases and things with too many eyes were deemed insanity by his captors. He didn't survive the week. Decades later, declassified Soviet intelligence files added another layer to the mystery. Nazi scientists stationed at Houska had been part of the Onanub, a secret society dedicated to proving Aryan supremacy through occult means. Their notes, recovered in a bunker near Berlin, contained sketches of Houska's pit labeled Die Glock, the bell, alongside equations referencing dimensional torsion. One page described an experiment where live animals, dogs, then later prisoners, were lowered into the shaft with cameras strapped to them. The final entry, dated April 1945, simply read, "The gate opens both ways." Modern paranormal investigators have since uncovered even stranger anomalies. Thermal scans of the chapel floor reveal a perfect circle of cold spots exactly where the pit was sealed, unaffected by external temperature. EVP recordings captured at night yield whispers in archaic German, one repeating "verboten," forbidden on a loop. But the most unsettling discovery came in 2017, when a team using ground-penetrating radar found a previously unknown chamber beneath the chapel, its walls lined with iron spikes pointing inward as if to cage something inside. The castle's current owners refused to allow further excavation, leaving one question hanging in the air. Were the Nazis trying to unlock Houska's secrets, or were they desperate to keep whatever they'd already unleashed from getting out? From the whispering walls of Petra to the bone-lined tunnels beneath Paris, these 25 ruins stand as silent witnesses to humanity's greatest enigmas. Each one holds a story, some written in stone, others etched into the very air, leaving us to piece together fragments of history that refuse to stay buried. Whether it's the cursed soil of Bhangarh Fort, the otherworldly hum of Hoya Basiu's clearing, or the phantom laughter echoing through Povglia's abandoned asylum, these places share one haunting truth: some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. They're meant to unsettle us, to remind us that history isn't always a closed book, but sometimes a door left slightly ajar, inviting us to peer into the darkness. Maybe you've felt it too, the chill down your spine in an old building, the inexplicable whisper in an empty room, or the sense that you're not alone in a place long abandoned. These ruins prove you're not imagining it. They're proof that the past lingers, not just in textbooks, but in the very fabric of these sites, waiting for someone to listen. So what do you think? Was Petra's abandonment truly just about shifting trade routes, or does something older, something unseen, still walk its crimson canyons? Could the Nazca lines really be messages to beings beyond our understanding, or are we projecting our own fascination onto an ancient people's forgotten rituals? The answers might be lost to time, but the questions, they're alive, sparking debates, inspiring explorers, and keeping these ruins breathing long after their builders have turned to dust. If these stories gripped you, if they left you hungry for more cracks in history's veneer, then you're in the right place. Our channel is a trove of unsolved enigmas, from vanished civilizations to artifacts that defy explanation. Hit subscribe and join us as we unravel the next mystery, because history's greatest secrets aren't just in the past, they're waiting for you to uncover them. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to finally piece together what these ruins have been trying to tell us all along. Until then, keep exploring. The truth is out there sometimes. It's just buried a little deeper than we think.